Okay, Rabbi side. Up to Sif Aleph, Shin Lamed Beis. We started half of the Mechaber. I just want to repeat this. You know, Choshen Mishpat is something that's not so easy just to dance into middle of a conversation. So let's start again. Okay, let's start Sif Aleph again. Umar l'shlicha, he tells his shliach. So I started to give a mashal, explain a simple mashal. Let's say you have a school, and the board of directors tell the principal, "I want you to hire someone for $30,000." This is a story that happened. It's not just a. So anyway, so he tells him, "Say the Shuvalis Poalim Shloshim." So tells the principal he's going to be hiring the people working for 30. He said he went and he said $40,000. Now what happens? That's the question. Now what do we do now? So he says, the shliach says, I am responsible. How you say in America? The buck stops by me. You have it? You have it, yeah?
Buck stops here.
Buck stops here. You have it, yeah? Shin Lamed Beis. Shin Lamed Beis. Yeah, okay. So anyway, so he says, so now the principal added to and he, the guy asks, who is responsible paying? So he says, I'll pay. So, tells the teacher, you hire the teacher, I'm going to pay you. Now, what happens now? He says, he's got to give him the $40,000. He goes back to the balabai, to the board of members, and he collects $30,000. That means the din Torah not getting paid, the teacher goes to the principal. You said it's your responsibility. And if it's your responsibility, you have to pay me. And if you don't have money, it's your headache. That if you now 30,000 of that, you go collect from the board of members because they said to hire for 30, but you added an extra 10. It is his responsibility to pay the extra 10. Very simple. Now, Zukta Remu, yes, Shomrim, I said last week. It's a very important remove. He says, in Kola Palam any Skunak Babu. What happens? You can't hire anyone only for 40. That's the going rate. The board of directors were not realistic, trying to cut. But you can't get anyone for 30. The going rate is 40. That's why the principle is for 40. So the remove holds is about he has to pay him the value of it. Now this is a huge chiddush. Again, repeat the story. I, or board of directors, hire you to get workers. And I said, all I want to pay is $30,000. And you said $40,000 to the guy. And he told the guy, I'm not responsible. He's going to pay you, the boss is going to pay you. So if you can't get anyone less than 40, I have to cough up from my pocket the whole 40, even though I said to you, I only want 30.
Wasn't paid a good salary.
The what?
He didn't pay the Ramon enough money to live.
Well, the Shach says, and the Sma said that everyone agrees to this. And I explained last week, the Kivega says that the Ritter disagrees. And this is very negated. And this happened. This happened with the Chabad school. I remember all the details. But that happened, how many years was that? The whole thing was
9 or 10 years ago.
It's more than 10 years already.
Why does it say?
What? It's 15 years at least, I remember. When the whole school fell apart and they restarted. Yeah, so it was 15 years ago, at least.
Why does it say specifically he gives 40, and then he gets 30 from the Balabai?
Because technically it's your responsibility.
Why doesn't it say 30 and he gives 10?
I'll tell you why, because you have to pay him. Let's say the coup says we don't have money. You have to cough up the money. You have a house, you got to sell your house to pay up your debts.
40?
Yes. He says, he said, I am responsible. So he's got to pay. You know, he can't come and say, you know.
Can't go,
Nothing.
can't go to the school and say, first give me the 30.
No, you could do that, but let's say they don't want to give it now. They don't have money.
So according to the Ramah,
But the Ramah is saying,
the going wage decides these siblings.
yes,
How much you have to pay?
yes,
They said this is how much we can afford.
yes, the going wage, yes.
How can you force someone to pay something they never do?
Well, it doesn't make a difference, but he did the work. He did the work for them, which is value. It's not that they thought they could get away with it, but he did the work, and that was the value of the work.
So what you're saying is that if somebody says, okay, and both sides agree to 30,000, but the living wage or the going
No.
wage,
If you agree,
Ah.
there's nothing to talk
So
about.
if the guy wanted 40,000, he says, I want 40,000. Someone agrees, but not the board agrees. Like the
Yeah,
principal
the
agrees.
question is who's going to pay for it? Feast. See, if a person is foolish, which I said last week, a guy, you know what you guys said over here that the COOs take $1. If you want to take $1 for your job, take $1 for that's not our headache. The headache is that he said differently than the boss. The board of directors said 30, he said 40, and even though they said all we could afford is 30, but the principal said 40, and everyone's wages is 40, they have to pay 40 according to the Ramah.
And if everyone's wages is not 40,
No, zug the Ramah. Ve'im umalehem schochen balabayis. If he didn't say I'm responsible, he says, you know what? He says I am, I am not responsible. Since then, all the local schools, and before that also already, many principals learned. And I sat on the Torah and a Chabad house also, and it was very clear. The guy told who was going to help out in the Chabad house, I am not responsible. I hope we can make money. If you're not, he told me very clearly, I am can't make money. But let's say if a guy just says you're hired, but I am not responsible. The balabas is responsible. The board of directors is responsible. Malhem sochne balabais, noislem balabais, keminig hamadina. Where did he get chiddush? You understand what he's saying? That he said, again, the owners said 30, and he said change the number. He said 40, and there are places you could get 40. He thought he was going to get 40. Listen to this, is a very important halacha. You follow what happened? The board of directors said, hire someone for 40. For 30. They went and hired someone for 40, and he said the board of directors will pay you. And in town, there's two. There's 30 and there's 40. So he says, he only gives them 30. Because there's the expensive, and we said we're only going to give 30, and he misled you. It's not our headache. And the price, there is a price of 30.
But there are most saying that the principal isn't responsible for that.
Only when it's the only price.
No, in this case.
This case, v'yeshlem tarume. This case is there's both prices. So the shliach misled me.
So can you sue?
V'yeshlem tarimis ala shliach.
What does that mean, Karome?
Tarimis means he could walk around with anger. That's all he could do.
Trumas means
Tarumas, I don't know how you say tarumas in English? I'm not complaining.
Like frustration.
And a grievance. That's it. He cannot take money, it's just grievance. Now this is I want to explain to you, I thought you guys were going to be screaming over here. This is very, very important halacha. Let me repeat the story. That means this shliach caused them a loss of $10,000.
Gave him $30,000. That's what the shliach is saying.
No, but he caught him a loss. He said, if you wouldn't have hired me, I would have gone 40. If you're the one who lied to me. You understand what happened? The board of directors says 30. The principal says, we'll give you 40. Don't worry, I'll
He didn't say will. They will.
Yeah, they will. I'm not responsible. Now he was able to get a job in a different place for 40. He hired himself here for 30. That means he lost $10,000 on his word.
That's what he says.
No. That just says that's the reality. That in town you can get both prices. Now we're going to learn this later. Why is this? You know what this is called? Hagroma. You know what hagroma means? You caused me a loss of money. Because I say to you, if you would have told me 30, I never would have worked for you guys. The other places will pay 40. So this is, I want to leave the kasha for the next Siman, because we do have to pay for groma. Why we don't? But here it says he doesn't pay. He can't sue him. We have to use the American language. You can't sue the principal who lied, because. But I have a right to have grievances. You want? No. Dina Shemaim means he has to pay. Dina Shemaim always means he must pay Dina Shemaim. Here is not Dina Shemaim, but you did an avla to me. I could be annoyed with you.
What's the point of that halacha? What difference does it make?
You want me? I should forgive you. Give me $10,000. I'm not forgiving you. It cause me a loss.
So what does that have to do?
That's it.
halachically?
That's halacha. You know, it's halacha. I have grievances on you. That's it. See, I want to explain to you something. Someone asked me this. Let me answer his question. Let me answer his question. We're learning this Siman. Many people get insulted. I always tell this to people. Many people get insulted because I was not invited to the bar mitzvah. I'm sure you have this in social. You notice that. I didn't get an invitation. I'm so hurt. So people ask me, it comes Yom Kippur, do I have to faiz him? I said, no. You're making a bar mitzvah. You have a choice to invite who you want. You don't want to invite Evet Balaydik. That's his headache, not your headache. I mean, you can't worry about everyone's, how you say Balaydik. Insult. Guy gets insulted. I mean, ein ledu v'sav. So here too, this is a case where he has a right to have terumas.
Is there something to terumas? Because if you look at the Shah says that if it's 3, if we got hired for 3 or 4, then he got hired for 3, then he could have gone out and got 4. But if only people get hired for 3, then even terumas doesn't happen.
Right.
But who cares? The Shah
That's very good. No, one second. Very good. He's just adding what I just said. So just adding what I just said. But what you're saying is that if, let's say, everyone is getting hired only for 3, but I misled you and I told you you're going to get 40, and at the end of the year, how you say in America, you banked on the extra $10,000. You already used it. At the end of the year, you're only getting 30. You can't even have terumas.
What Shah tells you can't be upset at him?
Yeah, no, but you could be upset till tomorrow. I don't have to mifaiz you.
Legitimate.
I don't want to have to. That's what I'm trying to explain. In halacha, people get insulted. Most of you are married. Sometimes your wives are sensitive, and how these things go. I went to the wedding. They didn't greet me, and they snubbed me. Girls, women know how to do this. I have a house full of girls. I know how it works. Now, if a girl didn't say hello to you, she has to call you up. Erev Yom Kippur. The wedding. I didn't say hello to you. I didn't insult you. I snubbed you, whatever reason I snubbed you, and I snubbed you. So that's it. There's no, many people think that any time your feelings get hurt after, there's no such a thing. There's times where you have. So this is adrabah. This shach bothers me all the time, what he just said. The shach is saying, I promised you 40, and there's no way, no one's going to give you 40. And I lied to you. And you have great hopes for the 40. And he really needed the money. And he walked around, I'm making money. Comes to the paycheck, he gets 30. He's really hurt. Who wouldn't be hurt? You can't even have terumas on me. Why not? So the Sant Halacha. I don't have a clarity. No one speaks about it. I looked around today. I remember this from old days. It was a kasha. Let me give you a marshal. Let me tell you a story.
The guy has legitimate purpose.
Yes.
So therefore the Shah is saying that you don't even have to.
There's no.
That's why it's that's the application.
But it's even but let me tell you a story. A young person asked me last year. Maybe I said it over here. I don't remember, but 2 years ago, it's very 2 or 3 years. Someone asked me, a young couple, they were living together. Change the story. They were living on a campus. 2 couples, 2 friends, they got close. The truth is, they were only eating there. And one of the friends of Shalom Bayis started waking. She picked herself up and ran away. Finished, left her husband. So she asked, the 2 ladies were best friends, so she convinced the other guy's husband to go to the apartment, take out all the jewelry and the legal papers, and send it to me. And he was just furious. You understand what happened? Yeah. The husband who stayed here, a young man, she picked herself, ran away with the baby, and he was there. And when they were in college, went to classes. His wife's friend's husband went into her apartment, took out the jewelry, and he was fuming at him, and he told him, "I'm not moichel you." And the guy calls him up before him, "I'm not moichel you. You took the money. I would have gone to the Tauber. She had no right to, they got divorced. She has no right. The jewelry belongs to me." And he asked the rabbi, this guy, and the rabbi says, yes, they would have gone to the Tauber. She didn't want to go to the Tauber, she had divorced, so she kept the jewelry. You took it away. I lost. It wasn't who knows how much jewelry. It was not $3,000, the whole jewelry that he gave her. Doesn't make a difference, but, So he asked me, and the funny thing is, the guy says, "I'm not going to go with you to the Tauber for $3,000. I am not moichel you till you pay me." He says, "Let's go to Rav." "I'm not interested in going to Rav. You did an avla." The guy says, "What should I do over here?" He had him, how do you say in English, over the barrel, looking in English. You understand that? And I looked around, he has a tefillah, he has gewaldige terumas. Because the bottom line is, they would have, even though he claims, "I wasn't sure he didn't get divorced," but you smelled already. He has a terumas, and he has a right to say, "I'm not moichel you until you pay him." And he told me last year, the guy says, "I'll pay you if a Rav tells me I've got to pay." I am not calling any rabbis. You find out yourself. So that's what it's called tarumas. It's a little bit more than tarumas. He has a right to say, "I'm not paying moichel till you pay me $3,000.
It's not called holding a grudge.
Sure, you're allowed to hold a grudge.
You're allowed to hold a grudge.
If a guy punches you in the nose, you're allowed to hold a grudge? Of course.
You don't say chutz. No. It's chassidus. This is the halacha.
I don't know what are you saying?
No, I'm saying we're every night.
Yeah, no. There are people who don't say it.
You don't say it.
There are people who don't want to say it because it's not moichel them. It doesn't. I want to explain to you something. It's a big mistake. What's your first name? Rafi. It's a big mistake. Let's say he's talking not moichel him. You could say till tomorrow. That's not. There are people who are. There are people who were deeply hurt by someone. I'm already moichel. An echte getug, I see him, I would like to punch him in the nose. I'm already moichel. You know what I mean?
If you ask 3 times.
Yeah, if there's halacha, he has to ask him 3 times. He has to take it. Right? He has to say, this guy. Let me add to the story. This guy called him up. He says, "Be me moichel." He said, "Called him. I'm not moichel you till you pay me." He said, the guy explained to him, "It's not the $3,000. It's not the $3,000 I need. Then I really know that he's really sorry. Just to call up to say, I'm moichel, you really hurt me." He says, "If you're willing to go to Rav, and the Rav says you have to pay me, you're going to pay me." He says, "Aaron Baruch Hashem, he doesn't need any more than $3,000. But, he feels this way. You did an avla. I'm not giving right. But, many people think that you get a punch in the nose. Yeah, if you're a big tzaddik, you're the hoyman yid, the Rambam says. But not everyone is that way. Maybe you are. I'm not that way. There are people who the Rambam says you get, he looks at the world as a silly. There's a famous story of Avrum Menager, times of the Vilna Gaon. So it's a very, very frightening story. While he was being burned at stake, he was a ger, and if the Christian became a ger, they would burn you at stake. So, and he was a very famous galach who became a ger. So before the burning at stake, so the galach says to him, "I know what you're thinking. In the next world, you're going to have revenge against me." And the priest over there was talking frightened of him. So he said to him a profound thing. It's just unbelievable. He said to him, "Well, do you remember when you were 5 years old, you're playing in the sandbox, and you're building a castle, comes your friend, and he smashes your castle. Probably for 2-3 years, you don't want to look at him. Imagine after you're 5 years old, you've grown up, you're 25 years old, 20 years later you meet, and remember what I did to you? I broke the castle." They both start laughing. "My children, I broke the castle." So then come the next world, you think I'm going to have tarimus on you. The Rebbeinu Shalom wants me to get burned. I'm going to look at the castle as a sandbox and I'll be laughing. That's what he said right before he died. You have to be... but most of us are not that way. Most of us, you get hurt. Unless you are that way. Unless a guy punches you in the nose. Come here, tarumas. A guy has a right. There's a halacha when you're allowed to have a tarumas or not. He could be hurt, but there's no halacha ramifications. That's what you were asking?
Okay. Yeah. Let me ask this also. In the place where the Shia we had two scenarios. One where the shliach said it's on me, and one where he said it's definitely not on me. In a place where he doesn't mention, is that a third category that we're going to discuss, or which way does it fall?
Oh, the Shach speaks about it. It means, what did the shliach, what did the worker think? He's working for the shliach. The shliach didn't tell him working for me. What transpired? I hiring you. You're a lawyer. I came to you, hire you, and I say I have a case. So if I didn't tell you it's for someone else, if no communications were done, it's understood, I am going to pay you. And even though you're not working for someone else. You understand what he asked? If there is no communication, and I come to you, and I say I want to hire you, do my legal work, or do my computer work, I didn't tell you that it's for someone else, and I didn't say anything, then I become obligated to pay whatever we make up.
Yeah, but for the case of a teacher,
Yeah, that's very clear. That is
that he's working for the school.
right. So
Even though the principal is
if the principal didn't say I will be responsible, it's obviously the school responsible.
it's what the worker would.
Everyone knows that unless the principal says schar chamalai, it's self-understood. Okay, so here you see, yeah.
Just have one question. The reason behind saying that the worker is responsible for the 40,000 is because when he's a shliach, when he says the term of 40,000, he's terminating his relationship with his employer.
There's no din shlichus, that becomes explained last week. Yeah.
So how come in a situation where people are paid, according to the shop, where people are paid 30 or 40, the same thing doesn't happen?
It does happen.
But if he terminated the shlichus, then he says 40, and it's his on him.
No, it's not. If he didn't say schar chamalai, no, that's not what the shach is saying. No. If he didn't, but you saw was quoting the shach was a different case. When I said the owners will pay you.
Sorry. What I meant to say is their amount. When the previous case with their amount, when he says that
Everyone gets paid.
everyone gets 30.
So then everyone gets paid 40, you mean?
Okay.
Everyone gets paid 40 for?
Where he says, no, the situation where he says, I'm not responsible. He says clearly he's not
And he says the owners are responsible.
The owners are responsible. In that case, it's still the same concept, though.
Yes.
That's what I'm asking.
So that means if everyone gets paid 40, he's going to get paid 40.
But if everyone's getting paid 30, even though he says I'm not responsible,
Yeah, then he gets paid 30.
commit a medina.
Yeah, but whatever the bottom price is.
But if he terminated the relationship, then it's his responsibility.
No.
That's the one thing.
No, it's not his responsibility. You know that I'm working for them. I told you I'm not responsible, and I am tell you clearly I'm not responsible.
I'm confused on the concept of the contract, because if he terminates this relationship, he's creating a contract here.
That's the Goyish way of thinking. I heard that from someone else, and then in Torah. And in legal courts, it works that way. In the Torah, it doesn't work that way. I know what you're saying. So when I once had a big Torah in Torah, and he said that's the legal way, it doesn't want Torah work. That means if I tell you clearly, I want to hire you, I am not paying you. I'm working for this big firm, and I want you to work as a lawyer and take care of the legal papers. And I make up with you, and I say, schar chamalai, even though I lie to you, I don't become obligated.
Because it's established clearly.
You're not working for me.
Oh.
Because legally, that's what you're saying. I heard this also from a lawyer in Torah. He said, legally, if you change your mind, you didn't do exactly, you become responsible. No, the Torah is no such a thing. So, Mamela, I lied to you. So, if you could have gotten more money, then you have terumas.
And they hold the same way, regardless of whether this was written down or orally. It doesn't matter.
Doesn't make a difference. You should everything write down because you now remember what. But the halacha is binding what you said orally, what you written. The writing is like ivris sahad eira l'shikra. Only there's no din because in the Goyish court it works that way.
But you have to write it and have witnesses, or
No, the writing. See, but not. See, there's two parts of Choshen Mishpat I want to explain to you again. There's one part of Choshen Mishpat where we disagree what happened. We're not talking. We all agree what happened.
that's the case.
We are talking. We all agree. We all agree that the nitva, the tveya, it was written, it was verbal, it was tape recorded. It doesn't make a difference. We have to know the halacha now. So we all agree that I hired him. I said, I'm not paying you, he's paying you. And I lied to him. And he could have gotten more money if he worked harder. All he has is tarumas. Even though I was goyim hezek. You know what gruma means? You know what gruma means? You goyim hezek. Let me tell you an interesting story that was asked.
2 points. That was one. Was there another?
No, that's the two. The Choshen Mishpat is the other chelik of Choshen Mishpat is when we disagree. Toya Venitim says, I said this way, you said this way, and what happened? He drove fast, he didn't drive fast. I'm going to tell you an interesting quick story. Someone asked me, "Can you turn this off? I don't want this to be on the."
Mental reliance. Someone who
I
relies.
know, and the Goyish Kot is what.
Someone who relies on somebody else, and as a result, they do something. So the principal hires a guy. He moves from New York to LA. Turns out he
That everyone agrees. That we see later in Shulchan Aruch, because I spend money on this.
So
That is says Shulchan Aruch. Dina Toydis also. Then he doesn't have to go to New York to LA. You can make Pesach.
Spend money to buy the ticket.
He didn't spend any money yet.
no, but what's that? But if he goes and makes Pesach at home, then he can charge for that.
No. It costs money to eat. So your father would have given you a gift. I mean, there's such a din in Shulchan Aruch. Let me tell you, if you want, I'll tell you. Let me tell you a cute story. Seifa has a tshuva. It's a funny joke, but it's a true story. Seifa has a tshuva. A girl was born in a shtetl. So they wrote a letter to the it was a moil, those derflach, everyone was fighting who to be moil. So they wanted to do a shtick. You know what a shtick, how you say, a prank. So they did a prank, they called them up, the bris is going to be on Shabbos, you invited to come, and the guy traveled, it was a long traveling, comes on, he's a chuchat lula, it was a girl, it wasn't a boy, so it was not a prank. So he wanted a tsar, ripi, shavas, boishes. They took out the entire, so the Sefer was asked. So he says, we don't get boishes nowadays, but he asked the Bezdin, asked the man to pay all the expenses that he had. And he says, I don't know how to judge. If you have a koyach, make him pay for the loss of work. And I have to look it up again, but he only could pay because he spent money going there. Like he just said, a teacher picks himself up, comes to LA, and then they don't want to give him the job. They have to pay him for not only that, but ladies see the cases where you have to pay him a whole year's salary. This also happened in Chabad once.
But why? But again, it's the same thing. He didn't do something.
No, because we later learn there's certain agrumas that he moved here, and he didn't. We're going to see later the whole Siman. We can't learn everything at once. We'll see the next Siman when you do say we're now. But here it says in Shulchan Aruch that he lied to him. He had a better opportunity. He could have made more money. He didn't. That's not.
Are you responsible to fix the mistake that was made?
Tarumas, yes,
In the
tarumas.
first example that you gave us, is he responsible to fix
He
that?
doesn't want to trust them. First of all, you can't fix it. No, he didn't fix it. You need a professional doctor.
But I'm saying in theory, something like
Avada
that,
would have to fix it.
would the person also be responsible to refund the money that he
That's
paid?
true. He has to refund the money. There's no question about it.
So if the guy gave the travel agent $500, of course he has to refund the money.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
So the Mohan needs to refund the money?
That's for sure. The Moil has to
But he
refund.
doesn't need to pay for the...
Doesn't need to pay because he didn't. Like how do you say? He didn't cut enough. That caused the problem.
I'm sorry, Rabbi, I don't see any Poalim here. It seems, you have to straighten this out for me. I mean, you hire a moil to do a job, and he doesn't do the job.
So he give you back the money, but now the question is, it cost. That's true.
It could be more. It would cost more money to do a fix.
That's for sure. It costs $4,000. That's true. It costs $4,000.
From scratch for an older
Right.
person
That's for
is less.
sure.
So
That's
you
for
should
sure.
seemingly have to
That's called a gruma, but it's not. We later learn. You're right. No one disagrees. See, I want to tell you all. I'm really the important thing in Choshen Mishpat. Not always when a guy doesn't have to pay, he's right. He might go to hell for this. This moil is going to go to hell for this. How does he make a moil? How does he say he's a moil? Doesn't do the job. Forget about it. See, Choshen Mishpat, many people think that sometimes you owe money, sometimes not. Doesn't mean you're tzaddik. The guy who lied now, and he told the guy that you're going to get for $40,000. He's a liar. And he hurt his feelings, and he built up. It's not that he's a. Question is, and Dina Mumanis, can he demand money to be forgiven? Does he have to pay? Doesn't have to pay? Doesn't mean that he's a nice guy. He's not a nice guy for doing it. The guy, the moil, is a terrible guy. The moil you know, you deserve patch, as we say. What do you mean you're a mile?
What if you just made a mistake?
No, it's not a mistake. I mean, ask the malam. This means he's still not competent. They say he's still not competent. People know how he does it, and he's not a competent male. In the large, not a Lubavitch Shmuel. Don't worry, it's not a Lubavitch Shmuel. Not a Lubavitch Shmuel. No, really not. Not the Lubavitch Shmuel. It happens to be a non-Lubavitch Shmuel.
Anyways, when you have the kids who consult Rabbi, not the big place.
Always use the Baba's one. Solve the problem.
Or Rabbi Moshe.
I'm not saying that.
Okay. No, it's really nothing to do. It's not a Lubavitch at all whatsoever. You know, I'm debating. Am I obligated to tell people that he did it? By the reason I'm not saying, because I only heard it from, you know, two people. Maybe it's, you know, I can, you know, if I would know for sure that is true, he shouldn't be a male. You should have to publicize. He's not a good male. Put it on the internet and let people know he's not a good male. You know, it is true. He's not a good male. No, but you know, people. You know, it comes to these things. People are very confused. No, when a person, I'm saying, when a person doesn't do a good job, he shouldn't be a male. If a guy, you know, an accountant doesn't do his job, he messes you up, he shouldn't be accountant. And people should be notified, do not use him as accountant. He messes people up. Or if you have a grocery store, or every time you go into this grocery, his milk is sour. You know, just, I'll tell people, do not.
I'm trying to think of examples where, like, it's not concrete. If a Rav tells his community something, and we're burning with shekels, he tells his community that. Is that, no, I'm just trying to give an example where no one had to go out and do anything. It wasn't like the person came and said, is this...
There's a special halacha that if a Rav paskins wrong, he has to pay. It's a hagruma, and even though he didn't tell him, and he didn't do the maisa, it says in Shulchan Aruch he has to pay.
That is a special...
Yeah, there's special... Dina Mamanis. That means the Sheitler story, I send a message to the guy that, you know, that he has to... Then he sent me a tape that when he said it in public, he'd never said that he's convinced that it's Avodah Zarah. He says, I cannot figure out what it is. And he says, people afterwards decided that's what he says. I was there and I couldn't figure out if it's Avodah Zarah or not. If it's Avodah Zarah. Turned out he was wrong.
He wasn't wrong. He never said it was.
Yeah, but you know, that's another question. If a guy makes such a statement, and it was very easy to find out that I myself called the professor. Someone got me in touch with about Shuva, professor in UC Irvine, and he explained to me, and that's why many people got in touch with from people who knew the religion, said it's not the Avodah Zarah. That's why the whole shaitel would have stopped. It died. Anyways, that I don't know how to judge. But imagine he gave such a psak, and many people burned the shaitel.
Going back to the reference thing, because there was a halacha advice. I had a guy who did a job for me, not so happy, right? But I was used as a reference, and the person's calling me now saying, "Oh, this guy's a reference. You know, can you recommend or something like that?" And I'm just avoiding the situation. I don't want to say yeah because I don't want to say I don't want to say no because I don't want to
Yeah, well, you have to be very honest with yourself. You know, why we're not happy. He didn't know what he was doing, or, you know, he's not such a nice guy, or his job is great. Often people ask me this question, and I ask them, what is the problem? He doesn't talk to you nicely? Or is the problem his work is not?
No, it was competence.
He's not competent, but he doesn't do work. Nothing. He's the sweetest guy, but he doesn't know what he's doing. Yeah, you have to tell the guy, calls you up, I'm sorry, I wasn't happy.
I can't just avoid the situation.
Well, why should you avoid him? You know, the guy's saying that, you know.
You said this by Shulchan. You mentioned this to us before, that you shouldn't be honest.
Shatkan is something else. I don't have to be honest. Shidduch, I don't have to be honest.
You don't have to.
No.
So maybe that backwards.
Yeah, Shidduch, I don't have to be honest. That's a Gemara. The Gemara says, did I say it over here once about the Shidduch? The Gemara Yevamah says, by Shidduch, you don't have to be honest. Unless the guy cannot be a man, cannot be a lady, cannot raise children, you know, she's not well. But once a person is just because there's a famous Gemara. A guy came to Rav, and he asked them, what is the halacha that a goy lives with a Jewish lady and had a child? Is the child mitaluva b'kol or usaluva b'kol? So I told him the father's a goy and the mother's a yid. The child is not a mamzer. So he said, "Oh, I'm not a mamzer. Rabbi, give me your daughter." Chutzpah, give me your daughter. So he says to him, if you would be as big as Yeshua Benin, I wouldn't give you my daughter. So Rabbi tells his Rebbe, Rav, if you're not going to give him his daughter, who else is going to give him your daughter? It's amazing Gemara. So he says, I have an answer for you, Rav says, go to a town, no one is going to know who your father is, and they have a shidduch, and you get married. Rav is telling him what to do, that means if you tell everyone, you'll go on a date and you tell the girl, by the way, my father's a guy, she'll drop him like a hot potato. Rav says, don't say anything. Don't say anything. Just go out.
Not saying anything, like in the case of the Orma. If someone asks you and you're not...
It doesn't make a difference. Halacha, that doesn't make a difference. Halacha, that doesn't make a difference. Yeah, it doesn't make a difference. Who says so you can't lie?
No, she says, was your father did he say yes?
Yeah, so what's wrong by saying yes? I didn't cheat you with anything. You wouldn't have liked to marry such a person. No. There's no newer.
No, that's why halachically are you?
Depends what type of a lie.
Isn't
And Allah, see, a lie.
Lies are allowed.
there a person?
There's certain, and you should never lie. A Pichsidis, we know, and a Pikabala. All right, let's move on. We can go.
Two main things where you are allowed to say Lashon Hara. In fact, you should say Lashon Hara. Is with a shidduch, you know something about something.
Yeah, if the guy asks you, you're not obligated to go break shidduchim. The guy asks you, is he, you should say. It doesn't have everything he asks you.
So essentially, it's a third party that's being asked, but if you're the person, then you don't have to say anything. In fact, you can tell a lie.
No, you shouldn't lie. That you shouldn't lie. But a person has the reason he shouldn't lie. Tell you what, because a person has a right. Let's say you ask the guy, I'm dating this guy, does he have an anger management problem? And you know that he could just blow his top all the time. So that's a big thing in a marriage. He gets angry. Marriage is a tough marriage. It's difficult to live with a person who's angry. Well, sure, you should say the truth. Why shouldn't you say the truth? It might wind up in a divorce. Well, let's say you know that he before he bombed out, there was a tkufa that he bombed out. No, the last 2 years back, he's sweet and kind, keeps Shabbos and does everything. Why do you have to say with the? So, you're not obligated to say. You could just say, I don't know, find out yourself. You're not obligated to say. There's nothing there that he did 2 years ago that now all of a sudden he's not going to be a good husband, he's not going to be a good provider, he's not going to be a from Yid. You know what I'm saying?
So you're saying that basically the guy, the fact that his father's a guy is a superficial thing, and therefore you don't want them, you're allowed to lie, somewhat like a shalom bias thing. You can lie shalom bias. You're allowed to say an untruth in the sense
It doesn't
that
say, I'm not sure, I'm not convinced that you're not allowed to lie about that case. I'm not convinced. The Marsham says, I'll tell
you
you.
want them to get together, maybe it'll be a good shit.
Okay, let me tell you a Chuvas Marsham. Marsham has a Chuva this way. There was a girl who became pregnant at the age of 16, unfortunately. And they, those days they would give the child quickly for adoption, and then she straightened up her life. And they shot from the shidduch. So they want to know, do you have to say two things? Do you have to say to the chassan that, she's not a psula, number one. Number two, she had a child already. It's a horrendous thing, imagine. Shmasham says you don't have to say anything. Don't faint. That's what he says, the Masham. Suba he has an eitzah for. But you don't, that's a complicated thing to explain. You don't have to say anything. She could be a good wife, she could be a good mother, has nothing to do. Well, what's wrong? You don't have to know about it. See, I explain this because often you don't mind, but if everyone knows, you're going to mind. It's not because the person fooled you. It's just.
Mental health and family. It could be hereditary.
Yeah, it could be true. But if the guy asks you, then you should lie. That's true, but you're not obligated to.
Could the man subsequently annul this marriage? Is it a basis for divorce?
The what? That the father.
He had a kid before.
No.
He has a child.
No.
But she gave him away.
It was a kohen. She could, if she lived with a yid, then she's mitzvah kohen. Just mamsh today, an anonymous phone call I had from a girl that she wants to live with a yid, and she wants to know she's dating a kohen. I said, if you know he was a yid, I know for sure it's a yid. It's my cousin. They were young teenagers, and they did something wrong. So he says, yeah, they could date a kohen. It's not a problem. It's only, even though she was a niddah, It's only if she's a what's her name. Anyway, so let's move on. What do you say?
Only if she's what?
You have to speak up, what?
Divorcee, only if she was divorcee.
Or she had to be with a guy.
What if she's with multiple Jewish men? That's
So
not a thing.
it's not a zayna. We paskin even if she mafkeres is no, she's not a silicon.
Kadesha, what is that? What category is that? A Kadesha?
A kedesha, but it's not. The Gemara has a machlekes. I'm almost sure the Rambam paskins that's not a zayna.
Zaina is only with the guy.
Zayna was any bias isser. She was raped by goy, raped by brother, raped by someone that it's a bias isser. Besides a niddah. Doesn't have to be raped. It could be not raped. No. What did he say?
Forbidden to have a relationship.
Right.
He said except for me then.
Set for niddah. The Gemara Dash is psukim. It's not the. Okay. All right. Let's get back to Choshen Mishpat. All right. Now, this is the Mechaber Medvur Mamirim Kshem Malach Nikeres. You can't tell what the work was done. Hoysa Malach Nikeres. Shuv Arbu. The Noislan Balabai Zabu. If it's a better job and they pay for this job more, then he has to pay for. You understand? That the only reason over here he doesn't pay for because he said the Balabas. See, I want to explain something. I forgot to explain something. There's an important sma in the shach over here. So let me go back again. I said the guy lied, and he said I'm going to pay you 40, and he turned out he was a liar. He said that the owners are going to pay you 40. So why does he get paid the cheaper price?
There are two options.
There are two options. That means people get 30, people get 40. And the shliach lied, he said the school is going to pay you 40. And it turned out he was a lie. So we go check what the city is, and if the city has two prices, he gets it. Why should he get the cheaper price? Maybe he should get the higher price. So the shach and the sma bring down the Lushan Arishonim. I think it's Lushan Arif. It says, because whenever you hire workers, the one who hires always has a mind to get the cheapest. And if you knew, even though here he lied, but if you wanted to make sure you get the high price, you should have spoken to the boss. Spoken to the boss. See the Lushan Hasma? The Shach brings it down. Look at Shach Hey. You see the Shach Hey? The Shach is the Sifse Koyin. That's on the left side. You see it? Shach Hey. The daita the inish. By you the right side? Okay. Hey, you see the Shach Sifse Koyin? So the daita the inish, the das of a person, a tarazilla on the cheaper price. Valayi ramya leglila balabais nemizgar elbera. You should have talked to the balabais directly. He says, I want. You want to make sure you get the 4? Don't trust them. Speak to balabas. Now, it's an amazing thing. That means the reason I don't get paid for, I should have talked to the boss straight. Why do you talk to his middleman? But I still have a right to have terumas on him. Angry, I'm allowed to be with him. But because I have to know that if there's two prices, there's such a thing, you have to think, I want to tell you something, teach people. People have a terrible misconception. I know it's hard, it's especially if you don't learn Choshen Mishpat. The Torah says, I'll tell you a frightening thing. The Torah says, don't trust anyone. How do I know the Torah says so? The Torah says, I give a guy a chayfetz. Watch me this chayfetz. A shomer. Here's my expensive object. Watch it. And he lost it. What does the Torah say to me? Swear. What does he swear? The guy wears the Beit Tam's film. He says chitas every day. Goes to the mikveh every day. His davening is 2 hours every day. Oh. He says, do not trust. Make him swear. This is B'shas Matan Torah. I mean, maybe he didn't lose it.
Torah is saying that if a guy swears, he's swearing the truth.
Because he's afraid of the shvur. The oynish of shvur is so terrible. He's the oynish of the shvur. He wouldn't do it. The Gemara asked the kasha. The Gemara Masechet Mumatziyah. That's one of the famous Gemaras. If a guy chushid al geneva, why is not chushid al shvir? The Gemara asks. The bottom line is, the Gemara comes out that he's not Choshen al Shviyah. But you see, the Torah says, don't, you have a middle guy, you want to make sure you paid for, you make sure you speak to the boss. You didn't speak to the boss, you spoke to the middleman. Maybe he was lying. How do you know he wasn't lying? So now, but you're allowed to have terumas. You know what terumas is? Now, but even though he fooled me, and I have a right to have terumas on him.
Maybe it's your own negligence.
Right.
So then why would you even have terumas?
That's what it says. That's one of the things I'm not so clear. But this,
I like based on that logic.
yeah. When it comes to money paying, you have to make sure. Under this work in the middle, the shliach.
That's what the shop says. The shop says that everyone's three. Now you're not allowed to have terumas because you should have known what you were.
Right.
That's it.
Right.
If he lied to you, you can't have terumas on him.
Yeah, we can't have terumas on him. That's a question. Why not?
The premise is that people lie and people steal. That's the premise.
See, I'll tell you when it is synagogue. Let me just give you another mashal. Let's say you live in New York. I'm sure on Crown Heights it's synagogue, not just in the Borough Park. You live in New York where everyone has the car service, right? So they have from car services. They have from France. The Borough Park has a bunch of them. So imagine you call up your daughter calls. That's what happens. Your daughter, I go to visit my child. She calls the car service to go to the airport, right? And the guy says to him, the daughter says, "How much is it? $50." Okay. I go to the airport with him. I ask him, arrive at the airport, how much is it? He says, $50. I told your daughter. You didn't tell me. My daughter was a middleman. She said yes. Who is she to say yes for my I'm the balabais over here. So I could tell him, I'm going to pay you the cheapest price, which the competition pays, $30. You understand what I just said?
Yeah, but he can't.
Why not?
But it was the daughter's fault for not giving
So, take my daughter to the Torah. What do you want from me? I'm saying what it says in Shulchan Aruch over here. That's what it says over here.
So he does have a right to pay. Who is the shliach?
She asked the rumors on my daughter. I don't know if he asked the rumors because he should have made sure. It's like he didn't, it was in the phone call. You know that things get lost. But I have a right.
Does he have to open the trunk and let you slip inside, or you could drive off also?
No, he has no right because if he didn't make sure, then didn't make sure it's $50. Then.
But same example, the flight is at 5 o'clock in the morning. You're waiting at 3:30 for your and he doesn't show up. You have no terumas.
Yeah, all right. Well, Tarumas I could. Doesn't have to pay me. Tarumas I'm allowed to have. It doesn't have to pay me. It's a gruma, which now we'll see later. It's different. But Tarumas you're allowed to have because I lost money. I missed the plane. The guy in Eretz Yisrael, he didn't buy the ticket. Of course he has terumas. I relied on you. But he doesn't have to pay me. He wants him to pay the difference between a ticket bought a month ago, ticket you pay on the spot. Okay. Okay, you can't tell what the melucha is. But if it's a malachta nekeres, you could tell shuva bu noiselim balabai sabua. He does pay for shili loy umanhem shlicha yarbu loy torchi lusu shuva arbu. That's all talking about. See, we don't have this concept nowadays so clearly, but the Gemara talks about if because I got paid more, I did a much better job. So the guy says, I did a much better job. You would have gotten a job for $3 an hour, you would have gotten a lousy job. But I knew I was getting $4, I did a better job, and I could show that's a much better job, and people will pay for that, and he has to pay me. That's very obvious. It's not such a big kiddush.
I understand, but the thing is, a way to estimate how much a job is worth, so you can't.
Those days, they would work that way. It's very hard to say nowadays.
Everyone gets paid for.
Everyone gets paid 3, but this job, but you did, people get paid 4. Now, I didn't ask him for that.
That's different than the case. I mean, say either everyone gets paid 3.
Yeah, everyone's paid 3. If you want a tip job, you write a very, very, you could paint, and, you have workers, you could do a job, and you could do,
Does that have to be the shliach has to pay.
the owner pays. The owner, not the shliach. The owner pays.
Agreed upon before, or
Yeah, we're talking.
he could expect the more money. Like let's say for like a bad job or average job it's
You got 3.
3 but and he did like a much better job and could he expect to get 4?
He did it without that's we'll see later. It's a big machlokas. We'll see about that.
Let's get the marshal of their head and get to see. hired to dig a hole, and that was full of water, so you can't tell he dug the hole or not.
But if you could tell what
You
type,
can't tell he did the job altogether. What
no,
would be a good job?
the job where you build a dam, you build a canal, you could see what a $3 job or $4 job.
Underpriced, on time, you know,
Can the
under
Balabais
budget.
demand from the shliach, because although he got a better work, but he didn't ask for 4, he asked for 3. Can the Balabais
No,
from the shliach?
no.
Well, it's like
He
you're
got,
saying more-
he doesn't make it, he got this, but it doesn't, but he got a job, it's worth it, and he's got the job.
Someone installing an extra window and you didn't ask for it.
Well, that, you could say, take the window out. I don't need the window. Then you could say, we'll see later, it's a whole Siman. If the guy does something I really don't need, or a guy something else, I don't have money. See, what happens if a guy does something? I explained the thing last week.
Yeah.
What if the guy doesn't have money? So why did you do it for me? Oh, you want me to pay $1 a week? I'll pay you. It'll take me 100 weeks to pay. I'll pay you 100 weeks. You know I don't have money. Why did you come do it?
In the case of the teacher, for example, it'd be hard to really say I did a $40,000.
You can't. No, teachers, right? You can't tell. That's what I'm saying. Right. That's what I'm saying. And it's the nowadays where we work, it's very hard to say. Extremely difficult to say. I'm sure you have workers. Can you say this guy does a better job? No. Either he's good or not good. You know what I mean? We live in a different world now.
Does this change drastically with partners?
Partners, what
Instead
is?
of being a higher,
That's a whole different sugya, partners. A whole different sugya. Okay, let's not see base. Okay? So the Muhammad, Umar Balabais, Sukhali Barbu, the owner tells him, hire me for 40. Now, the Shliach, the principal of the school wants to be a goody-goody. I want to save the board, the board members' money, and he says, and he hired for 3. Afapi, shemalachtu shuvarbu, even though the work was worth unbelievable. Shekibli, they accepted, al atzmon. Now here, listen to this. This is very, very, very important, and the lomdus is a, in the Mishpat, there's a lot of lomdus. Now let me repeat the story. He said, I'm working, he says, hire for 4. I go and I change what he says. I hire for 3. So I'm really not a shliach. I'm working for him. I'm his principal. He runs the school. And he tells me hire for $40,000. And I go and hire for $30,000. I change his order. I'm not a shliach. But this guy's coming to work for $30,000. The guy says, you changed the wording. Doesn't make a difference. You agreed to do the job for $30,000.
But if the school goes bankrupt, is the shliach responsible because he changed?
That's a separate question, right? That's a separate question. Many hold not because the school is very happy to get it cheaper. So we Kibli al Asman, he accepted. V'yesh lem tarumas al shliach. It's a very important halacha. That means they could be angry at me. This worker, I hired him, and he was willing to spend 40, and I said 30, so he could have trumas. Why did you change the deal? Why did you change the deal? He was willing to spend. He did not. The Ritva explains it. Why I'm saving him money. I am saving you money. He said, if he said to you, hire the cheapest one, he didn't say that. My budget, get me for $40,000. So he was willing to pay. Why in the world did you cut me off? So he's allowed to have trumas on that.
If the job is somehow botched, and as in the case of the mile, where the job is botched, could the board or the people who hire, like the middleman did the hiring, to hire the mile, could the board go and say, you hired a standard person to do the job, and go and say, claim for the whole job, that it.
Whatever, there's such halachas. Yes, if the shliach didn't do a good job, it's very hard to always know. But let's say he hired someone incompetent, and he should have known, then he's responsible. There's such halachas later. There's such halachas, but it's very difficult always, define exactly. But let's say, like he said, the guy has computer work, and the guy doesn't know what he's doing. I've heard this from others. The guy doesn't know what he's doing. He sits at the computer, but another guy could do in 10 minutes. He's working 4 hours. I heard this from people. Right. So if you hide something, you should have known. Okay, יש להם תרומה על השטיח ולא ישנה ומשכר חמלאי, שכר חמלאי, doesn't make a difference how the deal was. He cut off money, since he cut off money, so he has terumas on him. That's very simple.
When sometimes make intros to the basement and say, you don't owe anything, but you have Torahs. Do they make like statements like that? Like,
Well, we have a right to make up, yes, we do make statements that way, and sometimes we say, since it's terumas, we'll make up shara, we'll make him pay. Because they write in that they were willing to quote over the din. It depends what they signed.
before they go to the
Right, depends what they. Okay, should we start another scene? So Umar Balabai is b'shloishin. Now, this is a boya dole ifshita in the Gemara. So let's learn the Lushan HaMachaba. Umar Balabai is b'shloishin. The Balabai says, hire me for 3. V'hulech hashliach Umar barbuah. And the shliach said, 4. V'omri Hareini kemoi she'uma balabais. What does that mean?
It's different than us.
So see, what does that mean when a guy says, and I call balabais, that I don't trust you? What does that mean? What,
I don't trust you for sure.
Worker statements? Yeah.
yeah, then kishum balabais. Ain't daitom elisheitim balabais yoisabu. He didn't mean to say. He didn't mean to say getting less. You say, you understand what happened? He tells me, hire working for 3. Okay, I go to him and I say to him, 4. He says to me, I want whatever the balabas said.
Which is worse.
Which is terrible over here. It's 3. Yeah, so he's saying, that's what he's saying. So he said that, he didn't mean to say less. He says, either meant to say, I believe you, or meant to say, if there's more, but never unless. Let's evaluate. See, we don't say, see, we could have said it differently. We could have interpreted his words saying this way, I don't trust you what you're saying. Your words are worthless. So I'm going to work whatever the boss said. So, but he said 3, so once you agree for 3, I don't care if the value is $100 or less, you agree to do it. So the Mechaber, the Gemara is saying, when you said, I'm going to listen to the Balabas, meant to say, if the Balabas said more, that's what I meant, not less. So, of course, if there's the value is 4, you have to pay 4. Very simple.
Well, it's also because he broke the contract with Balbai, the same reason. The Shliach no longer has a contract at that point when it's actually 4. When it's actually 3, he said 4.
Yeah, so now we judge, there's no contract. So we don't say, I meant to say what he said. You know, then we just judge, there is no contract, and then we judge whatever the value is. Exactly. If it's not worth, and he does not know idea, if you don't know, if it's a value for you can't take more. It's very important. You can never be moitzi muman if you're not sure how much the value of the work is. This comes out in a lot of the Torahs. The guy worked, we can't figure out how much was valued the work, and especially computer work. I mean, I found out lately that, you could have a guy working on the computers and writing software, and another guy could do it in a few days. I don't know how to judge these things. It's a new world of computer technician.
The guy here does it for $100 an hour, a guy in India does it for $25 an hour.
$25, and the Din Torah guy told me $7 an hour.
In India.
$7. Okay.
But when he says, tell me whatever the Balbai says, when he says, 30,000, Shliach says 40, and he says to Shliach, whatever the Balbai wants, he knows there's a Balbai. That means it's not Balbai.
Yeah.
And it's clear. So why would the Shliach...
No, but the Ikaway were focusing not so much the Shor Chalai. When he said what the Balabai said, the Balabai said 3. Is he going to get 3 now?
No, but the Shliach...
One second. Let's say the Shliach didn't say nothing. Shliach didn't say, I said... but if he says whatever the Balabas says, if we say that he meant to say, my word is worthless, delete whatever I said. I'm only going where the Balabas said, then he was only get 3 even though it's worth 4. So we say that's not what he meant. He didn't mean to say delete me. He meant to say if there's more. I'm not here to forgive if the for 3. The 3 is now everyone gets paid 4. When I said like Balabais, maybe he would have said more. That's what my thing was.
This is after he's hired or before he's hired?
After the hired, we're saying after he did the work.
After he did the work?
After the work was done. Before the work was done, is you can't enforce anything.
The words were said before he did the work.
The work, and now the work is done. The verbal thing was done before the work, and now the work is done, and now they're arguing how much to pay.
The shliach and the po.
And the worker, not the shliach, him and him. He says, I said 3, and he says, I said him 4. He wants 4. So we say, if it's worth 4, he gets 4.
This is again, there's tarumas on the shliach.
No, if he gets 4, he gets 4. But if there's no terumas, if he gets the 4.
But isn't him saying, I don't believe anything you said this?
Yeah, but he can't have terumas on me. Who the babais could have terumas? He's asking good. What's your first name? He's asking very good. Could the balabais have terumas on the shliach? He can't, because no one works for 3. If everyone works for 4, you can't have terumas. There's no loss. Terumas has to be some indirect loss, some loss, something. There's no loss. There's no one who does it for that.
You want to do under the price, market.
Yeah, and there's no one who does it. So there has to be some loss of money.
How do you determine pay?
Speak up.
How do you determine
What the going price is.
Does it have to be this town or does it have to be
This town. Oh, you were not here last week. It has to be this town where he was working. Yeah, it has to be this.
You can't throw the Indian example.
No, the Indian example was I only heard this agavdik. That wasn't the interior. I have a right to hire. I have a right to do work for you and give it to my guy in India. Does $7 an hour. You're going to pay $30 an hour. That's not his business. But I'm agavdik. The guy threw it in. Now you didn't even do the work. The guy in Pakistan did the work.
Him saying to the shliach, I don't believe a word you say, it's the same thing, it to me sounds like the same thing as the shliach saying, I'm not responsible for anything. The shliach's a non-trustworthy person, he's saying to the shliach, I don't trust anything you say, I want what the owner has.
Yeah. So we interpret he didn't mean less.
What I'm trying to figure out is why the shliach would be responsible for that remainder, because
He's
when
not
he says,
not responsible. This case is not responsible.
no, but in the case.
Because he says char chomalai. I am responsible. The only time
If
is
the Baal Bais is offering 30 and the shliach says 40, he says, I don't trust you what you're saying. I only want from what the Baal Bais. He only means that only in the situation where the Baal Bais for more money. So, but in this scenario, Baal Bais is offering 30, shliach's offering 40. Even though he doesn't trust the shliach, does the shliach have to pay that extra 40?
if he says char chomalai,
He didn't say so.
then he doesn't. Then he said, I'm not responsible. You know that you know clearly I'm representing him, and he's the one who's going to pay you. So now he said 30, and no one gets 30 or even gets 40. He has to pay him 40.
Unless everybody gets 30.
All right, unless someone gets 30, right?
Somebody
What did he say?
somebody?
So there are people. He says, Im umar ashliach schach olai b'chayim is the marbu. That's obvious. He says, "Chem lo yipalim niskun rabbi." We also get arbu. That's very obvious what the Rama is saying over here. Okay, I hope you all digest this. Yes.